You know when you meet somebody new and they ask you where you're from and you say like Texas or Oklahoma or whatever, and then they're like, no, where are you really from? And you're kind of like, what? And they're kind of like, what? And you're annoyed, but you don't really know why, and they're annoyed that you're annoyed, but you can't really explain why you're annoyed, and then everybody's just annoyed. So I'm here to help you out today and to explain why you should never ask somebody where they're really from. First of all, it's very othering. Othering is basically when you point out that somebody else is an other or they're different from you. And so that kind of wording, it's just very like, it makes separations between people and it makes people feel like they're not really from wherever they say that they're from, and that's not really necessary. The line of questioning of where you're really from, it's used on people of color, and we need to stop. You know, it's not really cool to ask somebody that for that reason. It's just very insulting because it seems to imply that somebody who is a person of color cannot really be American. Obviously, Americans can be of any color, any ethnicity, any shape, size, sexual orientation, whatever, and that's what makes us great and beautiful and wonderful. Another reason why we shouldn't ask is because it's actually really condescending. So let's say that somebody asked me what I had for lunch, and I said I had a kale salad. But then if they were to be like, no, what did you really have? I'd be like, what the hell do you mean? Do you think I was gonna say like 5 Big Macs and a milkshake smothered in cheese? It's entitled, okay? I just met you. You don't need to know my life story. You don't need to know where my ancestors. Like, why? Why do you need to know that? We're very obsessed with putting people into little boxes. You know, like we love to say, oh, this person's French, this person's African, this person's whatever. And it's not really productive because whenever you meet somebody and you make knowing like their ethnicity or the origin of their ancestors like the first priority, you are gonna write your biases into their narrative. So for instance, you meet a Vietnamese person, you're gonna think about, you know, whatever biases you have about Vietnamese people. And I'm not saying that everybody does this, but ask yourself, why do you need to know this about a person so immediately after knowing them? And I think you'll find that that's why. This is a complex individual who has their own life experiences, emotions, education, thoughts. You don't need to bundle them up with your biases. You know, just chill out. We in the United States, and I think also in like Canada and the United Kingdom and places where there's been a lot of sort of immigration, we're really proud about, you know, the fact that we're multicultural societies and we want new immigrants and we want their children to become, you know, assimilated. You hear that all the time when you're talking about like immigrants and all of this stuff. It's like, oh, we need them to assimilate. We need them to adapt to our way of life. So which one is it gonna be? Am I an ideal example of like assimilation by children of immigrants, or am I not really from here? Okay, it's hard to be patriotic when people are constantly questioning your national identity because you don't look a certain way. Also, whenever people ask me like where I'm really from and they make it like a point to know where my ancestry is from, almost always they follow it up with like, oh, well, I went to an Indian restaurant the other day and let me tell you how delightful it was. Or they'll tell me about the time they watched Slumdog, or they'll tell me about their Indian neighbor. I think it's great, don't get me wrong. I think it's really great you went to, you know, Delhi for your senior trip, but I don't really need to know that. I'm not super interested just because a lot of people go to India and it's kind of like, okay, cool. I don't want to be a vehicle in which you perpetuate your ideas of being cosmopolitan and world travel. Like, sorry, that's not my